All right, I'm back. I'm here to do a book recommendation, even though I have not completed the book. I'm actually only, excuse me, 28 pages into the book, but it's already, yeah, I can already tell like this is a book that I'm gonna like, that I'm gonna get a lot of instruction out of, and that I'm willing to recommend. Now, let me say something. I look for a particular kind of language book when it comes to Japanese. And as you can see here, I don't know if you can see here, but here's the book. Um, it's called Japanese from the Ground Up and subtitled The Grammar First Approach, which it's definitely going to be a very niche market. And a lot of people don't like to learn languages with the grammar first approach, right? It's understandable, but if you're looking for something like that, this is a good book. So let me give you, I'm gonna give you kind of like a Japanese lesson here. Let me preface that, or let me state, I don't speak Japanese. I'm not a native speaker. I'm not even fluent. I wouldn't even really classify as an intermediate level Japanese speaker. But I know my grammar, my English grammar, and I can teach myself the grammars of other languages. And yeah, so what I learn, I usually learn well. Um, and so this is just to show you, this is not to be instructive. This is not to pass myself off as some kind of Japanese teacher here. This is just to show you what you can get out of what you will get, or what you can get maybe, out of the first 28 pages. And mind you, the first lesson doesn't even start until like page 21, I think. So like the first like grammar lesson doesn't start on page 21. So like the first 7 pages, this is what this book is giving you. Now, I put up here in the title augmented notes because I come into Japanese with prior knowledge, with prior grammar knowledge. If you've ever heard of the YouTube channel Save Dolly, she has the best grammar explanations of Japanese for English speakers that I've ever seen. Like what I know about Japanese grammar, and it's not a lot, and not because she doesn't know a lot, but because like I only delved a little bit into it, is basically because of her. Um, and and so and then I also used ChatGPT when I thought like when I wanted to add something as far as the lesson that I prepared. Um, so I didn't give you guys anything, like I didn't give you any bad information. Okay. And then sometimes, like for example, I'll talk about like here in this example sentence here, Honda, the author actually says Honoda. Like I'm not in a position to challenge the author's Japanese, but I've seen Honda instead of Honoda, or I've seen Hondes, or I've seen Kore wa Hondes, right? I've seen Hon as the word for book rather than Hono. So I don't know, like, if there's an important distinction that's being made, or Hono is the informal way of saying book and Hon is the more formal way of saying. I don't know, right? So I just went with Hon because it's what I've seen everywhere, and like I have various grammar books, various Japanese books, and yeah, and then when I do the Chat GPT check, it gives me back Hon. Okay, but I think that's a minor point. Like if the author's teaching Hono, um, and I'm using Hon, that's not a big deal here. Okay, so as you can see, this book I bought that just came in the mail today. It's 200 pages. I paid $10 on Amazon, and if you want the Kindle version, it's $5. This is the best $10 I've spent on a language book in my entire life. Like, I know that sounds a little like yeah, yeah. Um, what's the word? Anyway, maybe exaggerated, but it literally is like the best $10. Now I spent more on other books that were well worth that, but this is a let's just say this is a very cheap book for what you're getting, right? Usually a 200-page book is going to cost you $20, right? And you're not going to get the instruction that Haruki Yamamoto-san is offering here in this book. Okay, so let's go. So I'm going to give you a lesson. It's very simplified in a sense that I'm not tackling anything more than what was presented to me in the first 28 pages, and I think I have a solid grasp of it. Okay. And I'm going to mention like what I like. Yeah, so what you're getting in the first 28 pages is actually an informal way of speaking Japanese. And I put that in blue here. The da you would use in an informal sense. The janai is an informal way of talking. Data, informal. Ja, nakata, informal. I put next to it the more formal, des. So da here and des are equivalent meaning. It's just they belong to different levels of formality, let's say. So with your friends, you could use da. You can say like Honda. Like so let's get into the first sentence that Yamamoto covers. The first sentence that he covers is, I think it's is to say what something is. So for example, like here, we'll take the perfect example here. We have we have this, I have this before me and you're seeing it too. So you're seeing it, I'm seeing it. So our attention is drawn to this thing. And I say, Honda, it's a book, right? Honda, it's a book. More formally, I can say Hondes, it's a book. Not super formally, but just more formally than the da version. I can just say Hondes, it's a book, right? The DESU, the U kind of drops out and we just say des. You can even like trail the U a little bit like this, but I think it's just des. Anyway, so Honda and Hondes both mean it's a book. And this is stating what something is, Okay. I'm throwing in a little bit of grammar for you. If you have the word kore, which is this, and sore, which is that. Now, when we implement these words, we cannot just say kore da, or you cannot say sore da, or sore des, or kore des. You have to introduce the particle wa. Sorry, why am I holding this still? The particle wa is introducing the topic of the sentence. The topic, not the subject, the topic. It's like, what are you guys talking about? That would be the topic. Like, who are you talking about? Or whom are you talking about? Oh, we're talking about Yuki. She's the topic, right? Okay. And Japanese sentences have a different structure than American sentences or English sentences, I should say. So, kore wa means this, the word this thing. So if we have this, I'm like, kore wa, this hondes is a book. So if you throw in the word kore, then you have to say kore wa. And what you're saying is, as for this, or as for this thing, it's a book. But the Japanese doesn't include all the words that the English does. So the English would say, as for this, 3 words, it is a book, right? It is a book. The Japanese are just saying, as for this, hondes, book is. There's no subject, there's no stated subject. You don't need to, because when the subject is the same as the topic, the subject doesn't get stated, right? Because it's understood that it's going to be the same as the topic. Okay, we'll cover that a little bit more. So, but for now, just look at the construction. And by the way, I put purple when I give you new vocab, just because I always like new vocab being pointed out to me and being defined when I'm given it. So the kore, so the wa here is it announces that the topic, it announces the topic, right? Kore wa, right? This is the topic, guys. That's what it's saying to you. This is the topic, guys. And what I'm saying about the topic is that it's a book. Okay, that's number 1. So when to say what something is. Now, to say what it is not, right? So let's say I'm holding this up. This is a pen. Pen, I think, is just pen. Pencil is impitsu, but don't worry about that. So this is a pen, obviously, right? So okay, so to say what it is not, I would say honjanai. It's not a pen. I mean, it's not a book. Honjanai. It's not a book, right? And to be more formal, I would say honja arimasen. Honja arimasen. Honjanai, informal. Honja arimasen, a little bit more formal. It's not a book. It's not a book. Okay. And if I want to say the words this or that, I would say kore wa honjanai or sore wa honjanai. So kore is this, sore is that. Or more formal, kore wa hon ja arimasen, sore wa hon ja arimasen. Right? The red is the formal or more formal than the janai, which is the informal. That's it. So we have two kinds of sentences, one to say what something is, one to say what something is not. Okay. Now let's make a grammar point here. This to say something is like this is here, this is here, this is. In English, we would call that the present tense. That's the present tense. Okay. And the negative is also the present tense, it's just negative, but present tense is negative. Okay. Now, when we say what something was, we call that the past tense, right? That's the past tense. And if it's a negative over here, down here, it's past tense. Japanese doesn't divide their verbs the way English divides their verbs into 12 tenses, right? What Japanese does instead, and it's better to think of it this way, is they do the same thing with the past tense, like it was a book, it was a book. That's the past. That's the past. Those verbs are in the past. So this verb is in the past. Data. That's in the past. But this verb, the da, they don't think of it as in the present. It's better to think of it as in the non-past. So we just divide the tenses in half into the past verbs and non-past verbs. And there's several past verbs and there's many non-past verbs. Is the future the past? No. So it's part of the non-past. Is the present the past? No. So it's part of the non-past, right? So Japanese, it's better to think of the tenses as being divided into non-past, which includes the present and the future, and the past, which includes the past, and then other forms. But okay, that's the main division. So that's okay. So now let's go into to say what something was in the past. Hondata, hondata, hondata. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing this perfectly, but hondata is it was a book. It was a book. And more formally, hondeshita. The I here gets kind of goes away, and like it's like deshita, not deshita, it's deshita. Okay, I'm doing my best as a new speaker of Japanese, but that's roughly it. Hondeshita, hondeshita, and hondata, same meaning, different levels of formality. It was a book. Sore wa hondata, that was a book. Sore wa hondeshita, that was a book. Okay, that's the second thing. That's the third thing we learned. The other kind of construction now, obviously following this pattern, what something was not, what something was not. And the verb here is going to be ja nakata. Ja nakata. Informally. Formally, ja arimasen deshita, which is just a combination of the ja arimasen negative for the non-past, or think of it as the present if you want, the present negative, and then the past, deshita. So it's ja arimasen deshita. So the fourth is just built out of the second and the third, if you can think of it that way. It's not complicated, right? Okay, so hon ja nakata, hon ja nakata, it was not a book. Hon ja arimasen deshita, it was not a book. If you add a sore, you're going to need the wa, sore wa hon ja nakata. That was not a book. Sore wa hon ja arimasen deshita. That was not a book, more formally. Okay, so all of this is covered in basically the first grammar lesson within pages 21 through 28. You're getting all of this. You're not really getting, and well, like I didn't like, you're not really getting the formal, you're getting the informal. The red I've included for you because eventually you're going to want to know it, and eventually you're going to need it, and why not learn it as you're learning the informal variety, right? Or the informal, yeah, equivalent. Okay, so that's what you have. So the vocabulary is kept to a minimum, and we just build from the little vocabulary we have, we build more. Okay, so now let's go. So this is the chart. I gave you the chart here. So again, think of the present tense as the non-past, and think of the past as the past. And this is the division. Positive sentences, honda, past tense, hondata, positive. Negative sentences, honjanai, past negative, honjanakata, right? That's the informal, that's what you're getting from the book. But it's a very easy transition to learn also the more formal way. And the formal way is going to be more common way, I think. Anyway, so okay. Now this, the only reason I gave you all of this is just to show you what is on page 24, vocabulary. It's the first vocabulary list, and this is it. It's eight words. Okay, we already know kore, we already know sore, but otona, adult, gaku, school, tomodachi, friend, gakusei, student, are, that over there, sensei, teacher, shogaku, elementary school, kodomo is child. Okay. And then on the like 2 pages, 3 pages later, you're getting the three particles, which Yamamoto explains. I've already know wa, I already know mo, and I already knew ga. The explanations are good enough. So wa, I said, is the topic marker. It introduces the topic. Mo, which we're not going to do a lot, we're just going to show you what you get, is the inclusive marker. It basically means also. So, for example, in Japanese, if I say Tom, which they would say tomu, so because there's no single M sound in Japanese. So you'd have to have a syllable, and it's going to be mu, u. So tomu, um, tomu wa tomodachi desu. Tom is a friend. Tomu wa, as for Tom, tomodachi, friend, desu is. Tomu wa tomodachi desu. Tom is a friend. Now, if I want to say Yuki is also a friend, right? Yuki is also a friend. I don't need to use the wa marker, right? I would exchange the wa marker for the mo marker. I would say Yuki mo tomodachi desu. Yuki is also Yuki. As for Yuki, but I don't need to say the wa. I would just use mo, and it would mean what I said about Tom. He's a friend. I'm going to say about Yuki. Yuki mo tomodachi desu. All right, so that's the mo. And then the ga introduces the subject. So that is the subject, right? Okay. So like I said though, when you have the wa, whatever the wa is, whatever the topic, it could be tomu, it could be yuki, it could be hon, book, it could be enpitsu, pencil, whatever it is, if it's also the subject of the sentence, then we wouldn't need to include the subject with the ga. It would be understood. Okay. Names are not in the book. I mean, the author does use tomu, but he doesn't use yuki. I just threw these in just to make sure we knew what we're talking about. Tomu refers to Tom, and yuki is yuki. Okay, so how about this? Can you guys translate this into either informal Japanese or formal Japanese? I mean, sorry, translate to English. Later, we'll get a chance to go from English to Japanese, but this is from Japanese to English. Tomu wa sensei da. What does that say? Tomu wa sensei da. Okay. Next one. Yuki wa sensei janai. Yuki wa sensei janai. Third one. Tomu wa sensei data. Tomu wa sensei data. And finally, Yuki wa sensei ja nakata. Yuki wa sensei ja nakata. Okay. Did you get these right? Did you get the translations right? Here we go. I give you both the formal and the informal this time. Tomu wa sensei da is the same as tomu wa sensei des. Tom is a teacher. Yuki wa sensei janai is the same as yuki wa sensei ja arimasen, which is Yuki is not a teacher. Tomu wa sensei data is the same as Tomu wa sensei deshita, which is Tom was a teacher. And Yuki wa sensei ja nakata is the same as Yuki wa sensei ja arimasen deshita, which is Yuki was not a teacher. Okay, so those are four different kinds of statements you can make and you learn how to make regarding, yeah, with this kind of verb, right? Japanese has basically three kinds of sentences where you have like yeah, like certain a verb or a non-adjective ending, and then there's one more I forget. Again, this is not an instructive video. This is just an information video. Okay, grammar tips. I talked about wa already, right? So I'm going to make it more explicit because it's really important, and the book covers this. So the wa marker announces the topic of the sentence. So if you see tomu wa in the beginning of the sentence, it's basically, you can think of it as it's stating as for Tom. It's saying Tom is the topic, and what follows next, unless otherwise stated, is about Tom. And if it's not about Tom, then you'll have a new subject. It'll be subject, and then the word ga will follow it. The ga announces the subject of the sentence. That's closest in meaning, that's closest in grammar to what we think of as subject. Whatever is prior to the ga is the subject. Okay, but Japanese has this topic part, and yeah, so when they match, we don't state the topic. I mean, we don't state the subject. So Tomu wa sensei de says, as for Tom, he, and I put this in square brackets because it's not going to be, it's not, there's no literal translation that corresponds to the he. There are no words in the Tomu wa sensei des that corresponds to the he. It's just that as Americans or English speakers, we inject this for our grammar, for our understanding, right? This is the way our grammar works. So as for Tom, he is a teacher. We cannot say as for Tom is a teacher, or as for Tom, teacher is, right? We don't that's not how our language works. So we have to say he is a teacher, but it's not literally in the Japanese sentence. So so a more natural translation would just be Tom is a teacher. Okay. Okay, again, notice that again, Tom has no written subject. That's what I just pointed out. Okay. Yeah, so when the subject and the topic are the same, you will not see the subject stated. Okay. And we give a further example, hondes. Hondes means it is a book, but there's no word for it, right? There's no word, it's just book and then is, right? But so it's understood. It's understood because when I do this, I just say, like, I don't need to state it because we're looking at it. I'm pointing to it. Our attention is drawn to it. And so I'm saying something about this thing that we're looking at and are drawing our attention to, and I'm just saying is a book. And it's perfectly understandable, right? Look, cell phone, pen, right? You understand that I'm saying this is a cell phone, this is a pen, without me having to say this is, right? This is the same idea in Japanese. Okay. Okay, now we covered this a little bit earlier because I gave you the examples of kore wa, hon desu, kore wa. Okay, so this sentence pattern where you say the word this, which is kore, and then you want to say about this that it is whatever it is, it can be some noun or some adjective, then this is what you're going to say. Kore wa, and then the noun or adjective, and then da, informally, or des, formally. So, kore wa pen, kore wa pen des, right? And so this is not X, it would just be the same, but you would just say janai, right? Or ja arimasen formally. So, kore wa pen janai. Kore wa pen janai. Kore wa pen ja arimasen. This is not a pen, right? This is not a pen. Okay. Now, when you include a subject and you want to say that the subject was X, then you're going to say data. So, hon wa, sorry. Let's take Yuki. Yuki wa tomodachi data. Yuki was a friend. Yuki wa, as for Yuki, tomodachi data, she was a friend. Or tomodachi deshita, she was a friend. Yuki wa tomodachi deshita, she was a friend. Okay. To say that she was not, so let's change it to Tom. Tomu wa tomodachi ja nakata. Tom was not a friend. Tomu wa tomodachi ja nakata. And more formally, Tomu wa tomodachi ja arimasen deshita. Tomu wa tomodachi ja arimasen deshita. Tom was not a friend. Okay, that's the constructions. And obviously you can play with this and change the constructions. You can say that was not a pen, right? Kore wa pen datta or pen deshita, right? So you can change it. So this gives you a lot of like modularity. Okay, next. Here we go. I'll give you a little exercise here. Translate. If you can translate into formal or informal, just fine. Or both, it's fine. This is a book. This is a book with the word kore for this and book hon. So how would you say this is a book? I'll give you like 5 seconds, 6 seconds to think about it. And I won't say the answer until we get to the end, because if I say the answer now, it'll ruin what you're trying to do for the next ones, I think. Or it might help you too much, and then the exercise is moot. Number 2, that is not a book. Right, this is the non-present. This is a book is the non-present. That is not a book is the non-present. One is positive, one is negative, but they're both. Ooh, whoa, 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 whoa. Non-present. Okay, number 3, that was a book. That was a book. Remember, this is kore and that is sore. Sore. Okay. That was not a book. That was not a book. Okay, and those are basically the 4 main divisions: past, present, past, sorry, non-past, active or affirmative, then non-past, negative, then past, affirmative, and then past, negative. Okay. 5, Yuki was a student. Yuki was a student. You remember student? Did I give you student? Yes, I did, right? I'll show it to you again. Gaku, 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 say. I almost forgot it. Okay, I drew a blank there for a second. Okay, Yuki was a student. Okay. 6, Yuki was not a teacher. Teacher, everybody knows. Okay. Tom was a friend. Tomodachi. Friend is tomodachi. Dachi. D-A-C-I. Tomo. Tomodachi. Tom was not a friend. Yuki is not a friend. Yuki is not a friend. That over there, which is are, that over there is not a book. Hey, baka. That over there is not a book. Baka means stupid. Could be said in a very mean way or a very kind of like playful way. Often used in a very like playful way, kind of like we use dummy. Okay. Yuki is not a child. Whew, you better believe she's not a child. Sorry. Sorry. Yuki is not a child. Mm, Yuki is not a child. Kawaii. Kawaii. Okay, that's it. Those are the 10. Now I'll give you the answers with the formal and the informal versions. That is a book. For formal, kore wa hon desu. Informal, kore wa hon da. That is not a book. Sore wa hon ja arimasen. Informal, sore wa hon janai. 3, that was a book. Are wa hon deshita. You could have said sore wa hon deshita. I think that would be fine. And then informal, are wa hon data. That was not a book. The reason why it's are is because it's more distant, right? It's not here. It's in the past, right? In that sense. So, あれは本じゃありませんでした。あれは本じゃ, sorry, あれは本じゃ, sorry, I always mess up the little sing-song pattern. あれは本じゃありませんでした. And informal, あれは本じゃなかった. Okay. Yuki was a student. Yuki wa gakusei deshita. Informally, Yuki wa gakusei datta. Number 6, Yuki was not a teacher. Yuki wa sensei ja arimasen deshita. One more time. Yuki wa sensei ja arimasen deshita. And informally, Yuki wa sensei ja nakata. Yuki wa sensei ja nakata. Tom was a friend. Tomu wa. Okay, this one you could just say tomodachi. I don't know how. Did I use? I think I used Chat GPT. Uh, just say tomodachi. Tomodachi. Uh, tomodachi. We'll say tomodachi. It's what the book teaches. Uh, tomodachi. And last one, tomodachi. That's better. Okay. Keep things simple and consistent here. Okay, so Tom was a friend. Tomu wa tomodachi deshita. And informal, tomu wa tomodachi datta. Yuki is not a friend. Yuki wa tomodachi ja arimasen. And informal, Yuki wa tomodachi ja nai. That over there, okay, we're not going to do a soko. There's no need to do a soko. Let's just do are. Are would be fine. And going by what the book is in the book. Are wa hon ja arimasen. And then informally, are wa hon janai. That over there is not a book. And finally, 10, Yuki is not a child. Yuki wa kodomo ja arimasen. And informally, Yuki wa kodomo janai. Okay, that's it. This is the grammar that you will learn within the first 28 pages. And again, the actual like chapter where you get into like you get a bit of cultural stuff and you get a bit of like language information, like but not like more like linguistic or more like meta language stuff than actual lesson. For the language, the actual lesson starts roughly on page 22, and so by the time you get to page 28, you've already gotten all this grammar down. And page 24 is you're getting vocabulary, is that vocabulary. Then on page, like I'm looking at the book now, on page 29, not 29, I think it's 30, 31. Yeah, on page 33 and 34, you're getting more vocabulary, but it's only 9 more words, right? So this is what I'm talking about. You're getting the grammar explained to you. You're given exercises to implement the grammar, and you're getting just enough vocabulary to start expanding on the kinds of things you can say with the grammar you've been taught. But you've been taught the grammar. Like other books, other textbooks, other grammar language books, you're getting like 30 to 40, 50 words per lesson. So in lesson 1, if I have to learn 50 words, like I might not even learn 50 words. I'll drop the book because I'm like, I'm not going to learn these 50 words. So I'm not going to learn how to do this vocabulary because there's too much stuff I'm looking up and cross-checking and definitions and looking up words. I was like, no, it's like they're overdoing it with the vocabulary. And this book exactly doesn't do that, right? It exactly gives you a little bit of vocabulary and it gives you a bunch of grammar. Look at all it. Look with these, like with this handful of words, like what? There's 8 words here, okay, and there's 3 particles here, and the Yuki Tommy doesn't even count. Their names, right? There's nothing to be learned there. And then the basically the da, the janai, the data, and the janakata. That alone has allowed you to say all of this at the end, right? Has allowed you to express all of these kinds of thoughts. Okay, so book recommendation, Japanese from the Ground Up by Haruki Yamamoto. It's 200 pages, $10 in paperback from Amazon. I have Amazon Prime, so free delivery. In a sense, it's free delivery. We're paying for it some way or another. But it's $5 on Kindle. So if you don't mind reading on Kindle, which I do mind, um, yeah. If it had been like $2 or $3 on Kindle, I might have gone with the Kindle version. But for $5 and not having to like look into the screen and like have like gamma rays turn me into the Hulk, yeah, I spared myself that, and I just paid the $10. All right, I hope this was informative. Um, and yeah, I recommend this book. Go out and get it. Later.